Okay, we are having a beautiful spring. You can see the loropetalum blooms. This thing was covered in blooms that were kind of like this and that were absolutely beautiful, but you can see what's starting to come up. This is only its first season here, and the nepeta is doing well. The barberries are starting, and I didn't know this, but barberries bloomed. Did you know that? I have some great pictures of the phlox when they were in bloom. They're starting to go out now, but they're one of the first things to bloom in the spring. This one's a purple sprite, I believe. But obviously the show stunners are these dianthus. I wish they stayed in bloom for even longer. Sorry about the sun. Wish they stayed in bloom even longer. How much of an impact these make. Just absolutely beautiful. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend these colors together. This is called the Neon Star Dianthus, and that is an aster. And I thought those were only supposed to bloom in the fall. Definitely not complaining. It's definitely happy where it is. But yeah, the colors together are just, I don't know, it's nature, right? It just kind of makes you laugh. And you're trying to design around something and place something there because you're like, oh, well, those colors wouldn't compete. No worries. Yep, totally blooming at the same time. But I think this is just such a pretty drift of dianthus that I don't think I care. These rose standards have gotten totally out of control. Probably should have trimmed them up, or pruned them rather. Last time I pruned them, we were kind of scared they weren't going to come back, so not allowed to prune them anymore. And Brian didn't get to it before we noticed all the buds that were on, all those rosebuds that were on them. This thing was absolutely covered in rosebuds before we were able to really notice or get to it this season. And you know what? Doesn't look like a lollipop, but it sure is pretty with a lot of blooms. And excited to see this standard gardenia, or gardenia standard rather. This thing has gotten huge, way bigger than it used to be. These are some agastache, and I had 5 of these in this area, but they've just kind of one by one, just not really performed. My initial thought was to have Russian sage around here, the denim and lace Russian sage, but the nursery, we went to a few nurseries and we're having trouble finding it, and saw these agastaches, or agastache, however you pronounce it. But there's some purple blooms, and that was the goal, was to bring some purple over here, and they're starting to bud up. They're still very pretty. But yeah, there was 7 one in this area, or excuse me, 5. There's 3, 4, 5. And now I'm down to 3. But allows an opportunity for change. That's a luscious Cosmo Royale lantana. Absolutely beautiful. It'll fill in this whole area. It's my favorite one in the series. And these I was a little disappointed in. These guys right here, the salvia. I had like 3 pink right here and this purple one right here. And this is like their 2nd or 3rd season. And they just, oh, this one's trying to bloom. Yeah. It's a very pretty bloom, but they just don't perform here like I'd like. I'd like a show. And I don't know, we're zone we've been zone 8A, we just got changed to zone 8B. And I don't know if we're just too humid. We're in Georgia. So I don't know if we're just too humid, but a lot of times those leaves look like really soggy and kind of murky looking uh, in the ground. So I know they're in the shade right now, but they're in the sun a lot of the day. And just, I don't know, I was really excited about packing out this garden with salvia. And one by one, they just are kind of dying off. And thinking of adding some more cat pajamas, some nepeta to it, which would be really pretty. I think right here, right in this area. So, and the colors on this lantana are a combo. So it's like a peachy orange, pink, yellow, like hot pink, yellow and hot pink, and just like with a purple drift here, this darker barberry color, I think would just be really pretty. Oh, I think that's a bud. These are some of the most amazing daisy mays. And I think I just spotted one of the first, oh, can you see it? One of the first buds. So by the time this thing gets budded up, oh, excuse me, by the time this gets budded up, it is complete. You will not be able to see any of the foliage. That's how packed out and like flower power it is. It is absolutely beautiful. And believe it or not, we did just mulch all of this, but between the squirrels and the magnolia tree and this Laura pedlum kind of shedding down, it doesn't last long, but at least we know it's nice and fresh. These are some gold lantanas that we think will do well. I'll probably need to take out that lower branch of Laura pedlum. We have some more daisy mays. Don't mind the hummingbird. It's seen its better days. That was a Brian selection and can't seem to move it. Can't bring myself to move it. I think I see another bud. Yeah, these will be very beautiful. These are what the salvias are supposed to look like. I also had 3 here. I had to replace this one with a sage, or thyme. I think it's a thyme that blooms purple. So I had an extra one of those already and 2 purple salvia. And so thought, at least, hey, I'll add something purple here to try to create that purple drift there. What on earth is that stone doing there? Oh, probably trying to hold up, probably helping hold up this rose standard. This thing is completely packed out with roses. It is absolutely packed out and beautiful with roses. But, oh, look how beautiful that one is. But wishing it didn't have as many thorns. And also, wish we had gotten to pruning it before it budded up. And then once it budded up, we just could not bring ourselves to trim it out or shape it up. So they kind of look like this. It is what it is sometimes. Still beautiful. Back behind both sides, we have the rose, or excuse me, we have the gladiolas. That was an experiment that about halfway worked. I thought it'd be beautiful to have gladiolas behind this area to frame out the windows and be behind the rose standards. We have some like stakes in the ground and some wire to try to help hold them up, but they get so tall. And I think we'd literally need like 2 rows of those, of the kind of that stand to help hold them up. because by the end of the season, unfortunately, they start all flopping over like all of those. Of course, the idea was to have them all just vertically sow, and again, it's not how nature goes, I suppose. It was neat because all of these rocks here were found in our yard, and we found enough of them to where we were like, you know what? We're gonna use this and call it in the garden area. The garden's right behind me. And so this is a nice perennial garden. We call it the rock garden bed. Can you tell why? Uh, and the goal was to have a rock garden bed, a perennial garden to help the one of the pollinators to come, one to like help feed the pollinators, but then also to get the pollinators over on this side of the yard to help with the garden right behind us. I think one of my favorite things is a little statue here. Need to kind of dust it off, but